Got a door. Greetings and welcome to an LGR build video thing, one where I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone just a little bit and putting together something I've always wanted to mess around with, and that is a mid-90s x86 workstation. One that makes use of the Intel Pentium Pro, not only that, but dual Pentium Pro CPUs. And I've wanted to put this together ever since I got this amazing dual CPU workstation motherboard donated a while back, and then really spurred on to finally do it by finding this incredible case online. I mean, just look at it. To me, it just screams workstation, as does Windows NT Workstation 4.0, an operating system I've never used and I've always wanted to dive into. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a Windows NT Workstation circa 1996 with an awesome case, an awesome motherboard, and I'm sure a bunch of things are going to go wrong and I'm going to mess up all along the way because I've never really dealt much with this kind of hardware. But before we do that, let me show you kind of what I'm going for. And that is specifically one of these symmetric multi-processor workstations from late 95 to late 96-ish. Dual CPU systems like the HP Vectra XU6200C, for instance. It's pretty much the closest I can come up with that we'll be building. The kind of thing that would have cost at least $11,000 back in 1996. And that was for a system that just had 64 megs of RAM and a 2 gigabyte hard disk. We're going to be pretty much maxing out what was available in 96 with this build, so it would have cost a lot more for what we're doing. Good grief, the processors alone, those would be between $1,300 and $2,000 for just one of them. And we're going with two. Let's go ahead and take a look at the motherboard that's enabling this. All right, so this is the beast of a motherboard that I want to go with from late 1996. Yeah, this is an Intel PR440FX, or at least some version of it. This is one with, as you can see, dual socket 8 PGA 387 CPUs, and installed in there are two 200 megahertz Pentium Pros. And in case you're unaware, the Pentium Pro is from late 1995, the first of the P6 architecture CPUs from Intel, and is kind of the predecessor to the Xeon line, which the Xeon was introduced with the Pentium 2 Xeon in 98, and of course that continues to this day as Intel's server and workstation and, you know, in the higher end non-consumer CPU for professionals. And obviously two can be used at once, known as SMP, or Symmetric Multiprocessor Support. And I gotta give a huge thank you to LGR viewer Adam for hooking me up with this awesome board. He intended to use it for a project of his own, but never got around to it, and it's very much worth getting around to. I mean, just look at all this. It's such a loaded board in terms of integrated features and ports, and I mean, it's already got a ton of RAM. I seem to remember 128 megs being mentioned when he sent this to me, but that looks like a lot more than that, so we'll have to figure out what's in there. A max supported RAM is 512 megs. That's insane for 1996. All the ports and interfaces and expansion slots, we'll take a closer look at those. Yeah, it is known as some other things by Mitsuba, ICS, Toshiba, and Gateway, so used in some different systems. Officially supports the Pentium 2 overdrive and apparently has, well, this is interesting, trouble booting from CD-ROM on IDE. Use a bootable floppy or a SCSI device. I don't see that being a big deal. So let's just start with the rear I/O. So we've got a couple of PS2 for keyboard and mouse, parallel serial, probably a spot for another serial on some versions or something, a little empty area there. A couple of USB 1.1 ports, a 10100 Ethernet, some Intel Ether Express thing, and an integrated sound chip with, yeah, game port and microphone, all, you know, your normal ports there. It is a Crystal Audio something. All right, there we go. A Crystal CS4236. Not a bad little chip, although it will need drivers and things like DOS, but I don't anticipate doing too much DOS on here, really. Even got a little wavetable header right there. Yeah, CD-ROM and microphone. Anyway, as for slots, we have 4 PCI slots, and then this bottom area is shared between one of those PCIs and 16-bit ISA. Nice to have that. Pretty dusty board, but otherwise it's looking great in terms of like capacitors and like no damage, nothing visible anyway. Yeah, our 4 RAM slots populated with whatever these are, Kingston modules. It's EDO, RAM, ECC, I think is what it needs, or at least it supports it. We'll see what that is when we get it working. Well, if we can get it working, it's supposed to work, but we'll see. See our 2032 battery, a bunch of jumpers and Intel chips lying around doing all the chipset stuff. I thought this was great when I saw this. It has onboard SCSI through an Adaptec 7880 SCSI controller. Awesome to have. Little piezoelectric beeper has tape over it. I don't want that, I want to be able to hear it. There we go. Anyway, also integrated IDE controller, the floppy, and it's just nice to have all this stuff on the board, and a bunch of front panel connector pins, including this one I just noticed, infrared. I almost put this in the Oddware tower build I did last year, but decided to put some even more odd things in there instead. Yeah, just a beige 5¼ inch drive bay thing that gives you an infrared blaster, wirelessly communicate with various old devices. Yeah, we'll have to put this in there. A bunch of interesting power stuff going on up here near the dual Pentium Pros. So we got this 5-volt DC input board. This is a VRM, or voltage regulator module. So just making sure that the Pentium Pros get the proper voltage. I mean, we really just need to add a graphics card of some kind, and I mean, that's about it. We could swap sound as well. Maybe I will, but we're gonna try probably just what's included, see how that goes. I have a lot of questions about this because I haven't actually used this before, or really this exact type of setup at all. This is beyond the normal consumer level stuff that I typically make a build from, you know? And that's why this is so exciting. Speaking of exciting, let's take a little bit of a closer look at that case. Oh yeah. On a roll with this build. You can probably guess why I picked this up. I mean, it's got wheels, it's got this like smoky glass, well, it's not glass, it's like a acrylic, but yeah, smoky looking thing on the front with the key, and just a whole bunch of 5¼ inch slots. These interesting buttons for power and reset. Some LEDs here, but yeah, it's just the overall aesthetic I love. As soon as I saw this thing on eBay, I'm like, I gotta have it. I don't actually know who it's made by or anything. This is the only one of these I've ever seen. It is all metal. Like, this is metal, that's metal. Like, it's just metal all around. It's extremely heavy and just fantastic, while not being like this gigantic server case. This is technically a mid-tower, but they get a lot bigger than this. But really just the fact that it's on wheels, right? Like, what says professional computer more than wheels? Unfortunately, this one's broken. In fact, they're all kind of slightly broken, so I'm probably gonna replace it. Well, yeah, there we go. Yeah, all the wheels are gonna get replaced. But yeah, other than that, and some cosmetic scuffing here and there, it's in really good shape. And yes, it does have a full computer setup in there already, and a bunch of cards and things, which I don't plan to use any of this, at least not today. I mean, maybe the power supply if that turns out to be okay, but yeah, I think this is a Pentium 4 system of some kind that's in there. This build in particular is something by Team One Systems, but I don't think that's who made the case. I don't actually know who made the case. All I see on there is this, so if anybody knows who made it, tell me. It does actually have a couple of interesting drives, which I guess I'll just leave in there. Like, you know, we need a 3.5 inch high density floppy and a CD-ROM anyway, but it also has this Tandberg SLR drive. This is a tape backup system, 25 gig tapes, 50 gig compressed SLR 50 quick format, or quick, I think that's just the cartridge type, QIC. I've mentioned other sizes of that before. Yeah, so there's some good stuff in here in terms of like recovery drivers and file system disks, whatever. Lone Tar airbag, Team One Systems hardware diagnostics, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, 2002 is when most of these are dated. Really not sure exactly what this did. SCO Unix server, configuration worksheet, Teleflora Technologies. Yeah, the hard disk is long gone, but there's some clues as to what used to be on there. There was the original configuration as it was, not Teleflora. Team One Systems made it. Teleflora Technologies was the company that bought it 22 years ago. I'm gonna have to look up who that was real quick. Well, this is a fascinating little rabbit hole. Here is the building that this computer was shipped to back in the day, this Teleflora kind of nondescript place in Paragould, Arkansas. Don't know if they're still in that location or not, but apparently they're all over the place. Teleflora is a floral wire service company, which brokers orders to local florists for delivery. So they're like the supplier for the florists that bring you the stuff locally. Subsidiary of the Wonderful Company since 1979, and yeah, they're like a $4 billion revenue gigantic thing behind Fiji water and palm juice and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, Teleflora Technologies in particular, they do software. Not only POS software, your point of sale things, Dove POS, but apparently something called Eagle and bits of software and applications all related to florist inventory and delivery and checkouts. And well, anyway, I don't know what our exact computer was doing at Teleflora Arkansas, that location there, but I just like to imagine that this was the person using it. He looks like he knows Unix. But yeah, back to the case though, and it is clearly pretty dirty. Had a rather dust-filled professional life. They at least gave it some kind of air intakes over here, nothing going out the back of it. I guess it was just supposed to go through the power supply. In terms of what it is, it seems to be a pretty generic motherboard for a Pentium 4 kind of thing in the early 2000s. At least that's what I thought. I did actually test this out, and well, now I feel kind of bad about replacing the motherboard, because check this thing out.
No IDE hard disk detected.
Yeah, the BIOS talks. I have never run across that before.
System completed power on self-test.
Yeah, no more worrying about deciphering boot code beeps. It just talks to you and tells you what's going on. Yeah, this setting right here, speech post reporter. Apparently it was a thing. I guess Asus did it. This is an Asus board. Anyway, maybe it's more common than I'm aware. I've just literally never heard of this, and I think it's awesome. But yeah, first things first, gonna test out this motherboard. Closest ATX power supply should do. A little power button. Thankfully, most of the pinouts are printed directly on the motherboard. And in terms of graphics, this is not what I'm gonna go with for the final build, but again, just whatever was closest by to test real quick. It's an ATI Mach 64 something PCI. Okay, let's see how this goes. All right, not getting any power to those CPU fans though. Bet you this is the wrong cable. Yeah. Yep, that's totally the wrong cable for this particular power supply. Try this one. Ah, there we go. See what kind of RAM we get. At least 128 megs, but I'm figuring a good bit more. Yeah, those fans aren't as loud or grindy sounding as I figured they might be. Who knows, those bearings tend to go bad in those. Oh yeah, 512. Sweet. Built-in SCSI is neat to see. There you go, yeah. Time and date is actually correct still, so assuming that has been changed at some point. There's no way the original battery is still doing its thing. Yeah, 2 Pentium Pros, 200 megahertz, and so many integrated ports and things. Seriously, like everything except video and storage. Oh yeah, and I guess the video is working because we've got video, so. Dude, this is awesome. So yeah, feel free to continue the build at this point. But first, let's get this motherboard cleaned up. Well, there's that. Pretty much the first thing we gotta do here is make sure that the CPU cooling situation is all good. I might actually replace these fans. I'm certainly going to replace the thermal compound. Plus, I just gotta admire these beautiful ceramic processors. Ooh, little label came off, but would you look at that? And it's just a beautiful thing. Wow. So we have a compact sticker there, so I wonder if this was one of those boards taken out of a compact build. Actually, it was Gateway that was mentioned. on the RetroWeb website. Maybe there were some compact ones as well. Maybe this is just pulled from another random computer, who knows? But either way, this is so much more impressive looking than a regular Pentium of the time, which looks like this for comparison. Still a lovely thing, but man, compared to the Pro, this still feels really special. It's still relatively fresh. It probably was fine, but I want to redo it myself anyway. I've got Threadrippers and all these crazy modern workstation CPUs going on, but it's just one of those things I never, as a kid, thought like, oh man, a Pentium Pro, who in the world would ever have one of those at home? Certainly not me, certainly not two of them. This is so cool. And I'm fully aware that I'm not gonna be able to do like anything with this in the grand scheme of things. So for what I had in mind are some of these Noctua 60mm fans. Certainly a bit taller, but that is fine. And you have a 3-pin connector there, so we should be able to just hook that directly to the fan headers of the motherboard and not have to do this Molex thing. Yeah, taller, but definitely going to be less noisy and hopefully speed controlled. Well, my deck doesn't currently exist and it's raining outside, so I'll just dust it from here. Yeah, thankfully not a lot of caked on dust, just a light dusting. How does this work? This is awkward trying to get this screw lined up with this hole, which lines up with this little bracket thing, and that's hole, and then a hole down here, and then another one down there, while also keeping this to the side. Ah, no, the other side came off. What the heck? Wow, don't like that. Gotta do it again. Why? You know, there's probably a better way to do that, but I don't care. It's done now. Heck yeah, looking nice and refreshed. Almost ready to put in the case. All right, so about this casters situation. Yeah, this one is straight up just broken off of there. These others all have, well, this one doesn't. The other two have little broken bits on them. I don't think that's actually supposed to come off of there, so it'd probably be best to just replace this entire unit, like the base and the shaft and everything. I don't know. I might be able to find something at like Harbor Freight or somewhere local. There we go. There we go. Put one of these suckers on there. That's what I was concerned about. The bases are all going to be larger than I've seen online. Something like this would be perfect, but they have the stem already in there. I mean, I don't need one, but you know, it's and trying an office supply store. This place looks sadder and sadder every time I'm here. These are pretty much what's already on there, but they already have, yeah, they don't have a base. It's just the stem. At least I got plenty of blank DVDs and CDs. Yep. That was a waste of time. And this is why most of the time I don't even bother going to actual stores in my area. This took an hour to go to these two places and got nothing to show for it. All right, well, a couple days later, and yeah, I finally was able to source some appropriately fitting parts. So yeah, it turns out this is not the most common plate size. So it's 1 3/16 by 2 inches. Grainger Industrial Supply had these that looked very close. The vast majority of things like this have a square or just slightly larger size overall for the plate. But yeah, that looks close enough. And these only cost $4.20 each. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any with like braking latches or mechanisms on there, but I'll just be sure to park it responsibly. The more annoying thing is that they don't really fully turn around without getting stuck. Like the swivel is mounted higher up on the stem area or the plate. And so yeah, they just sort of get blocked like that. And I did use the extra plate to give it just a little bit more, but it wasn't enough. You can see that these just have a little bit more clearance going on, so I might get some washers and address that later on, but it'll do for now. Oh yeah, that's feeling more sturdy. I'll move on to the cleaning, actually disassembly and cleaning of the inside. They hot glued all the front wires in. Ah, it's all hot glued. I think that's the one card that isn't hot glued in. These 3 cards that they've added are all hot glued in place, as are the front panel headers. Also, this tape around both sides of most of these cards. It's these I'm worried about because I don't want to break off these headers. I like this motherboard. You know, I really should have tried to use some IPA or something, but too late. Finally, we're free. And now we can start the cleaning and dusting process. All right, spent another 45 minutes or so cleaning it more deeply with some more hands-on sprays and rags and all that, and most of it I didn't record because I didn't press the button. So whatever. Anyway, it's pretty clean now. About the only other thing I want to do at some point is probably replace these fans. In fact, I got another couple of those on the way. These are just 80 mil fans. Got a number of standoffs in there, but definitely need some more for this side of things. Also, don't have a rear I/O plate. At least not yet. That tape drive is actually SCSI, so don't need the card the other one had since we have that built into the motherboard. Dang it, I should have done the front panel stuff first. Well, I don't have all too many workstation-y pro type cards. One that comes to mind that I do have a couple of is the Matrox Millennium from 1995, RM96, in the case of this Rev B from Compaq. And yeah, it's a card that was available in 2 and 4 megabyte variants on launch, this one being a 2. And while it could do some 3D accelerated gaming, it was very much advertised more for CAD work and 2D Windows GUI acceleration and full motion video, high refresh rates, high resolution, true color. You know, one of those. I also happen to have one of these, which has that expansion header filled up. And this is another one from 1996. I don't know if this is like a 2 or 4 meg, I don't know what module is on there. Haven't tested these particular Matrox cards before and I've always been curious. Just doing a real quick test here to see what happens before I go any further. And unfortunately, this power supply that was in the case, it is not doing anything. This little Flex ATX one though that I was using earlier just to test the board, that works fine. Yeah, the voltages seem decent. I've tested all the different connectors as well, but yeah, it's just not happy with the combination of hardware we got going, I guess. And daggum marginal crap. So I just have the floppy drive connected. Get nothing at all. And I took that out. Yeah, starts right up. So, guess I'm gonna use one of my spares. And yep, it's got all the good voltages. Yeah, that works perfectly fine with the floppy drive connected. So, yeah, swap out whatever was in there. Ah, it's a Sparkle Power FSP 300. It's not a standard ATX opening there, but this front plate just comes off with the sparkle. All right, so obviously I need a hard drive, and I've got a few choices. I mean, got SCSI hard drives, IDE, well, those are SATA drives, but a lot of IDE drives as well. Many of which are era appropriate. These are laptop drives, but I'm thinking something even more special, or at least bigger. I have a few of these 5¼ inch beasts. Yeah, these are Quantum Bigfoot drives made from, I don't know, 96 to 98 or so. And I have a few of them. I don't know if they all work fully. I have, powered them on. They sound amazing. It'd be great to get one of these actually working. Guess we'll have to try and see what happens. All right, I'm gonna try one of these 6 gig version of the Quantum Bigfoot TX. Let's see if it works before I do anything more. Got some interesting startup noises there for sure, but yeah, Quantum Bigfoot detected, so is the CD-ROM. Cool. I guess it's time for an operating system. So we need something to take advantage of these dual 32-bit processors, and it's not a gaming rig, so we're not going with DOS or normal Windows. I considered like some version of OS2 Warp actually, not this one, but like 4.0. But now Windows NT Workstation makes the most sense to me. Plus, I've always wanted to try it out. I thought about version 3.5. I've got a nice sealed copy there. Also have some copies of NT Server, but it's not really what we're going to be doing with this. I think for what is effectively an early 1996 workstation type of thing, NT 4.0 makes the most sense. And plus, again, I've always just wanted to try it. Not this copy though, not yet. I have some other plans I'd like to get into deeper with that one. So for now, I'm just going to use this Compaq OEM copy. We've ended up with a number of Compaq components in here anyway. There we go. There's 2 CDs. There's that NT Workstation 4.0 and Service Pack 4, which this one had as well, adding like the Y2K and Euro currency updates. Anyway, here we go. Yeah. As far as I know, this should be a bootable CD-ROM, but there was that note about this maybe not being able to boot from faster, newer CD-ROM drives on this particular motherboard, so we'll see. I haven't even tested this drive at all, so. Weird. Trying a different CD-ROM, and that one doesn't work either. So, not a bootable CD. I wonder if it was supposed to have, like, boot floppies, which might be in here. I don't know. I've definitely seen some available for download online. I'm gonna try one of those. All right, floppy drive is reading, so guess that answers the question whether or not the drive works. And at least we got a setup here, so OEM copy probably just didn't come with a floppy. Multiprocessor kernel, 512 megs, but 1 system processor? You'd think it'd say 2. Well, that's a familiar screen. Curious if it'll find that SCSI tape drive. Oh, there you go. All right, so MPS multiprocessor PC. I don't actually know what MPS stands for, so I'll just go with that. We got Microsoft Mouseport mouse. It's just a PS2 Microsoft mouse. I don't know, man. Just let it do its thing. Delete the partition. I guess there was something on there already. Who cares? Okay, cannot format the partition because it's too large. Why? Didn't think NTFS had that limitation. All right, well, it's letting me do a 2 gig partition. I'm not seeing anything about like disk sizes being too large or anything. In fact, it's just like, whatever, just put it on whatever. Guess we'll just have 2 partitions, one 2 gigs and one 3.8-ish. Interesting. So it looks like NT4 creates a fat partition first during the text portion of setup, and of course that's limited to 4 gigs. So you can't go any bigger than that, and then it converts it to NTFS later. How odd. I guess that was successful. Nice. There we go. 2 system processors. That's what I was hoping to see. All right, so now it's doing the file system conversion. That's interesting. Yeah, just having never done this before, I don't know what I'm doing. All right. This is very Windows 95-like, and yet not. Oh, I don't know what we're calling this thing yet. Again, very familiar looking things. We'll just do all those. Games. Oh, we got games, including pinball. Interesting. I didn't know that Space Cadet was included. Yeah, at the moment we don't have any networking stuff hooked up, but I would love to do that at some point. And I guess the mouse works. Nice. MGA, yeah, the Matrox Millennium Found. I just put it in true color immediately. That's awesome. Oh, heck yeah, dude. Go up to, whoa, 43 hertz interlaced up to 85 hertz in this mode, which I believe this actually goes up to 200 hertz. not the display, but the actual graphics card. All right, installed successfully. Ooh, I like that. Welcome to Windows NT. Did you know anything? Nope, I don't know anything. Okay, so we don't have sound going, or at least there's no icon. So far, very Windows 95, except for all the things that aren't. Windows NT Explorer, administrative tools. Wow, that is amusing to see on a system of this era. Again, yeah, like it feels familiar and yet not strange in between of like, yeah, Windows 9X and 2000 XP and all that. Application performance, dude. All these things. Oh, you got all this stuff. Oh, I got tape devices. That's awesome. I have to get a tape. All these neat things. MS-DOS console. Devices. Yeah, I was wondering where that was. Okay, whoa, this is not what I was thinking. Oh my goodness. How do we get to just like the hardware, like what's in here? It's like using a computer for the first time. I don't know what I'm doing. This is so cool. Definitely looking forward to doing a more in-depth Windows NT video, because I got a lot to learn, it seems. Oh, we do have our classic screensavers. Pretty much the normal selection. We got 3D Maze. Nice. That's running darn smooth and quickly. Oh my goodness. Don't know what to do with all the speed. All right, well, I'm gonna have to figure out where to actually do things like install the sound drivers or just look at drivers or devices at all. Now it's safe to turn off your computer. That's different. Used to the whole like Windows 95 black screen orange text. Anyway, this is fun. Okay, I'm gonna screw around. So yeah, this has been an interesting couple of days of really mostly screwing up, messing around with things in the dark, and yet not, because, you know, it's so darn similar to different versions of Windows I've used, and yet it's different enough in the things that it has, or really doesn't have. That's been a lot of the most surprising stuff that I've run across. You know, it's like not having a device manager, for instance, or figuring out how the heck to install drivers at all. You know, you can do it directly through certain programs, or for like sound, for instance, you have to go like into devices directly and do add right here like it's Windows 3.1. Not only that, but of course finding Windows NT4 specific drivers for things like the sound, which was kind of an all afternoon process. I went through probably a dozen different driver versions and downloads that I found, and really it all came down to the fact that like every single driver website and archive I was finding, well, they might have mentioned NT4 as being compatible, you know, supported on that driver version for this specific Crystal sound chip. It simply was not. And eventually I found a really old archive listed on like some BBS archive, and I finally found the Windows NT specific version of the thing that I needed for this one sound chip. Or, you know, I also added like a USB stack to this because I do have USB ports, and NT4 supports it as long as you add the stuff that it needs. And in theory, I did. But when I was installing the stack, it specifically said, oh, your system has more than one processor, and the drivers do not support multiple processor systems. So that's another fun hurdle that I've run into. But yeah, you know what? We've got MIDI software synth. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's here. You know, not bad for FM emulation. And you know, it's been pretty good sound for all the Windows things that I've been doing. Oh yeah, not to mention we do get that phenomenal startup and shutdown sound for NT4. Forward or reverse, it sounds great no matter what. And we do have 3D acceleration of a sort, but my goodness, it's the card that it is. 2 megabyte thing with not full OpenGL support. Anyway, it does pretty darn good in terms of running stuff like Photoshop and your productivity applications. I do like this task manager that is very much reminiscent of later versions of Windows. 2 different processors there, and we can, I don't know, I had this going earlier. Yeah, look at that skier. Low resolution skier. What is this at? 481 by 321. Let's put it up to like 4,000 or something. And then just, yeah, let it do its thing. The power of dual Pentium Pros. I actually don't know if this really takes advantage of it. Photoshop 5.5? No clue. But you can see the CPUs, like, I mean, I guess it's doing, I don't know, 2 different CPUs doing stuff. Look at all the RAM we're using. Holy nuts. There we go. So much higher res. Look at that. Just beautiful. And of course, stuff like AutoCAD, really what this is made for, right? Oh man, I gotta say though, this is so speedy as well. Like, compared to a lot of things I've tried like this on Windows 95 or 98. I mean, I don't know. I've never really used dual Pentium Pros either. I really don't have much to base this on, but it feels extremely like fast and responsive and just like it's barely even trying. It's just, yeah, throw whatever you want to at me. It feels like a workstation. It really does. Whether that's down to NT or the hardware, the combination of things, I don't know, but this feels so speedy and like instantaneous. I really like just using NT4 here. Obviously, it will get a little bit bogged down with some things, but you know, even this, like just, yeah, loading that all in, that's great. Man, I really don't know how to use AutoCAD at all, but I do know how to render a scene. The sun, evening, I assume that's what that is. Yeah, render that. Anyway, this does take a little bit of time. Yeah, you can see right here. It's going, it's doing some things, but again, it doesn't, you know, bog down anything in the system, man. Like, you can just keep on doing whatever the heck you want, multitasking to an insane degree, and that's insane to me. Like, being used to Windows 95 or 98, really, you know, it just does whatever I've been throwing at it, and I haven't had any crashes other than weird driver issues. But yeah, there we go. I got a raised traced image going on over here, and got Photoshop going over here, and all this multitasking, preemptive. However, okay, let's talk about DOS stuff just a teeny tiny tad. Because it doesn't have DOS. This is Windows NT, and I believe this is just emulating, it's just a command prompt. It has the DOS logo, but it's like, you know, in Windows 2000 or XP or beyond or whatever. It's just command. It's not DOS like 9X. So for one thing, you do not get any Sound Blaster support whatsoever. Commander Keen 4, it doesn't detect it at all because it just has no way to see it. Unlike a 95 or whatever, it's just going to pass it through. All we get is PC speaker. And I don't know how noticeable it is here, but it's a little slow. Like, it feels floatier and sluggish and just off if you're used to this game, or any game is just off in some way. So let's get Crystal Caves going here. I don't know. It's like, it's 90% there. One thing that's incredibly noticeable in, though, is Duke 3D. Again, we get no sound support just because it cannot see that. You have to install something like VDM sound or whatever. But yeah, look how slow this is going. But yeah, something like VDM sound would give you some Sound Blaster and AdLib emulation. I just haven't tried that yet, so again, it's something I want to try in the future, but look at the... It's like moon gravity or something. it just feels weird. It's like, yeah, okay, well, look how slow the RPG goes. It's odd, and you know, yeah, the gravity is weird. Everything is slower. I don't know if that's just an NT thing or this system thing or what, but it's not good. That being said, who cares? This is not a gaming system. It's for work and Quake 2. Obviously, we're running software mode, so no kind of 3D acceleration being shown here, but we do have it technically. We're kind of like being hit by two sides here. This GPU is Matrox Millennium 2 megabyte thing. It's not great for anything, but it's particularly not great with things like DirectX. That being said, DirectX, Direct3D, all that kind of stuff, I think 3.0 is as high as NT4 is officially gonna support, which is what I have on here right now. So there's also OpenGL, and this is an OpenGL capable game, so let's go to that, and let's put it down to the lowest possible resolution. So, we might get like one frame every few seconds, and again, this is the best I can get it to run when OpenGL. You put it on like 640 by 480, and I think it's like one frame every 10 seconds. So a lot of this really is just coming down to this GPU that we have in there. Okay, something like Quake 2 from 97, pretty much a no-go. But something like Age of Empires from 97 is just fine. Full motion video. Yeah, I think this uses direct draw, direct play, something like that. It's not a 3D accelerated game.
Almost.
Unfortunately, I don't have the CD-ROM audio playing none of the Redbook stuff because the audio cable is not connected. And I guess this isn't one of those that can run the audio through the IDE. I don't know. Either way, I don't have music.
Erictus.
You can Rictus over there, man. Dude, I've been playing so much Manor Lords lately, it's weird to get back to this. Like, how do I tell people what to do? Oh, you just click on them directly. That's how.
Almost.
Anyway, runs great, as expected. Honestly, I would be more surprised if it didn't work. One thing I am surprised doesn't work is this NASCAR Racing Matrox Millennium MGA version, which specifically makes use of the card that's in there, but it is unfortunately a DOS game, and it runs into this memory error no matter how I configure it through Windows NT here. Nothing makes a difference, it just gives the same error no matter what. So that's unfortunate. That's one of the few things that really uses this card. But something else that uses it is this demo right here, Renderware Animated Night by Criterion Software. Yeah, that Criterion, they had the Renderware engine and API and all that, and Matrox was one of those companies that I guess made use of it, or well, they certainly had the demonstration included with Matrox Millennium cards, and yeah, look at that. Real-time 3D and shading and all kinds of fanciness. And yeah, that came with the CD-ROM for the card originally. Just downloaded a copy of it from archive.org. Also on that CD was this, Asymmetrix 3DFX. One of those delightful programs that comes with a bunch of 3D assets and things for you to just play around with and do some very basic 3D, not modeling, but like placing things on scenes. Like, oh, you can just make a backdrop there, and then let's see, we'll have, I don't know what the heck that is, man on the moon, a computer model. You can import like 3D Studio models and resize them. You can't really edit them too much directly, but there are some attributes here and there on some of them. I don't know, I haven't messed around with this a whole lot. Yeah, you can change like the textures and stuff like that. Okay, let's give this, there is a wood grain pattern. So we can make like a wood grain computer. And let's do a preview snapshot. And check that out. Not sure I'd call that wood grain. It's probably scaled incorrectly, but dude, this, I love this stuff. A perfect use of an expensive mid-90s workstation, I gotta say. So I have this other scene here that I was slapping together last night really quick. And yeah, we can also do something more advanced like ray tracing. Not real time, but you know, in the Bryce 3D sense. And yeah, a lot of this kind of reminds me of something like Bryce. But yeah, ray traced with shadows, we can do that. The one we rendered really quickly earlier was just realistic. We got all kinds of different settings here. I mean, we can really just make this thing go forever. I mean, this would go all night if we cranked up the settings a ton. And it can also do animations. We're not going to do that again. That would take forever with ray tracing. But yeah, let's just let this do its thing. Getting that CPU up and at 'em. I don't know. It's neat to see something powerful from the mid-90s do powerful mid-90s things. And there we go, a beautiful ray traced image with excess reflections going on because, oh man, we gotta trace all those rays. 7.5 minutes to make that 400 by 300 pixel image, and we can save that as a bitmap. Oh yeah, look at that dithering. Could have rendered it without dithering, but I don't know, I kind of like the way it looks. Ooh, and you know what? We do have one more thing we haven't delved into yet. We've got to test this Tandberg Data SLR 50 drive. I sure hope it works because I bought some tapes. Some lovely labels there. Yeah, that is hefty. Much larger than the other quick tape I showed. And what was that? The J Bond 386? Same idea, 1/4 inch tape. I love tape backups. Golly, it sure would be nice if this worked. It took me so very long to find the driver for this because, again, Windows NT for specific drivers for this specific drive. From what I gather, there's just some backup program that you can use it with. Probably this. Tandberg had software as well, which I don't have. Blank tape, I'm assuming that means it's detected it. So let's just try to back up Duke 3D because it's the kind of thing I do. All kinds of different backup types and log files, whatever. This seems pretty good to me. So, oh, nice. Don't know if this is the sound of success or not. Oh, nope, that's a problem. Unrecognizable data. Tape device reported an error on a request to write the doobadoo. Let me just try to eject that, see if the tape is still looking as it should. Yeah, totally is. Maybe we just need to erase it fully first. Nah, same error. Well, I don't know if it's a mechanism thing or a tape thing. I do have another tape, so we're gonna try that. Ah, man, what a shame. Probably a drive issue, but could be taped, could be drivers, I don't know. If anybody has any ideas, let me know. But for now, I do have another thing to put in here. I also have some new intake fans. I'm gonna turn this thing off. Let's just leave it going. That comes off surprisingly easily. And yeah, here's where our fans are, including some really nasty old filters. Oh, how tasty. Get rid of that. That'll need some cleaning and replacement, and as will this. So two 80mm fans behind there. And then these, they just kind of screw out. So it's a pretty substantial, like, you know, metal plates. Again, metal for this whole thing. It's beefy. There's not much going on here. Just plugs directly into that IRDA header on the motherboard. Although we don't have anywhere to put those screws in on the side here because that's not how it's designed. It's got like these rails that mount to the side of drives. That's probably the most annoying thing about this case. There's some behind this one if I remember. Yeah, there we go. I'm about to try to duplicate that, 3D print some more or something, because yeah, it's kind of necessary to put anything else in there. Oh, what the heck? Smacking up against the hard drive. You know, I'm not even gonna mess with this for now. I'm just gonna put it back. I just took all this apart and now put it back in here as it was, because it turns out that I cannot move this hard disk down any further because the cable isn't physically long enough, the one that I have in there. It will not go further. It'll go a little bit higher, so I could put the hard drive up here, but that would mean putting the infrared like down here somewhere, and that just bothers me. Pattern-wise, I don't know. I want the infrared right here. I don't want to put it down farther. I don't even know if it'll work with Windows NT. This is for 95 and 98. Probably has NT drivers. I don't know. Tired of drivers. Just do the dang fans. Ugh. Good enough, dang it. And yeah, I really didn't want to turn this thing off until I'm done with this video. Let me show you why with some other footage. What's going on is it tends to do this anytime it's starting up after being shut down properly. It just says OS load in progress and gets stuck right there. I can't control alt delete or do anything. It just kind of hangs even though the cursor is still blinking. Yeah, it's fine just restarting, but shutting it down and then powering back on, yeah. Why does it do this? I don't know. So far, the only way I've been able to get it to boot again is to run through the repair setup process thing with the floppy disks. And that's 3 different disks I have to go through. This adds like 10 minutes every time I want to start the system back up. It's really annoying. If anybody has any ideas why it's doing this, let me know. I'm thoroughly done with this build. For the moment, anyway. It's been fun, but frustrating and enlightening and bizarre and curious, and you know what? It's just been an experience over the past 13 days, like off and on, of course, but yeah, this has been a bit of an ordeal. I don't know. Working on other projects in between, and now I'm preparing to go to a convention. So anyway, figured I'd call it here and just ask you for your input. Like, what did I do wrong? Because I know I did some things wrong. And I've learned some, and I'm still confused about some things. Like, a big one is that booting issue after doing a proper shutdown. I can restart all day long. I've had this thing on now for 4 days straight just to prevent the hitting shutdown, because it's just so annoying to have to go through that whole like restoration process for Windows NT every time that I want to start it up from a cold power off kind of situation. But yeah, in terms of ideas as well, I'd love to hear some, because this is a fascinating environment to work with. Not just Windows NT, but also the dual Pentium Pros, but also the video card. You know, I have so many ideas and things like that I want to continue just cramming in this video, but this has gone on for a very long time. So let me know your ideas. Matrox Millennium stuff, Pentium Pro stuff, dual Pentium Pro stuff, Windows NT stuff. And I do still plan to do a kind of more involved NT 3 and 4 video at some point. But that'll probably be on different hardware too. I don't know. Anyway, this is just one of those LGR things where I'm kind of frazzled by the end of it. I had fun, but I'm frazzled, and I gotta call it here. And if you enjoyed this rather scatterbrain kind of all over the place build video, then well, check out some others. I have done some others, and there are always new LGR things in the works for the future. And as always, thanks for watching.